Marcus, why all of my friends do not pay me any respect? Remember about me only when they need some help?
Maybe they are not your friends anymore then?
Hey, when Yakuza arrived at Liberty City, it was me who gave them a new house, protection and money.
Speak directly. What is wrong?
Yakuza boss Kazuki wants to tell you something personally. He is going to meet you in his place in Torrance.
I am glad to meet you, Marcus-san. One of my best drivers and soldiers, Futoshi, has a problem. His car is stolen. Bring his car back to me, and we can talk about more serious work. I know you might help us, right?
I could. Where's the car?
Jewelry store in Newport on the backyard. And yeah, wreck the shop, then you can leave it for your family.
Shit, that was my aorta. An idiot! Take his legs out!
Hey, Marcus, it's Bernardo.
Bernardo? Who?
Wait a second. You haven't seen us for a short while, and you already forgot about us? Oh, yeah, you also owe me $100.
You should have told me that this is Caligula's casino hotline calling me. How's it going, boys?
Oh, well, it is going damn fine for us. Quiet as in heaven. But we have heard your brother Frank died. How are you?
I don't think I want to talk about it. You know, I loved Frank. It's family. I try to forget him.
No shit, I hear you. Just remember one thing, Marcus. You are not lonely. You will never be. There is Polly close to you, here in Ventura. There's me and the boys. Don't forget about it. Good luck.
Are you insane?
Credit cards are like domestic help. Watch out! You me, dear.
I don't do the F&M shit. No finance, no romance.
Every now and then I get an itch to go back and replay something that I haven't played in a while. Sometimes it's a game that's only a couple of years old, and then other times it's something that's upwards of a decade old. And sometimes when I go back to replay it, it ends up being worse off than I remember. It's like my memory of the game is better than the actual game itself, and it's kind of disheartening when it happens, making you wish that it just stayed in your mind as this idyllic memory. However, that wasn't the case when I went back to play through Sleeping Dogs, an open-world crime epic set in Hong Kong that was originally intended to be a new entry in the true crime series. Now, I played this thing back when it first launched in 2012, and I hadn't touched it at all until a few weeks ago, when I replayed through it again from start to finish, and I've gotta say, it's as fun, if not more so, than it was over a decade ago. At the time, a lot of those open world games simply got called GTA clones, which is about as insulting as when people just used to call every FPS a Doom clone back in the 90s. And while it definitely has a lot of similarities to the GTA series, it's still in a league of its own in a lot of other ways.
Welcome to another episode on the Gaming Investigators channel. Today, discussing the main issues that are closely related to the title of this episode, we will look at a bit of a colorless character who, unfortunately for us, is an example of a protagonist without any characterization. The aim of the episode itself will be to analyze and understand why Claude is such a protagonist and not another, as well as why there's no background in the form of an interesting story from Claude's past, such as in the case of Tommy Vercetti, Nico Bellic, or Victor Vance. We wish you a good time, and now, let's get to work. And so, in the beginning, it's worth saying a bit more about the origins of Claude and the history of his identity. The name of the protagonist of GTA 3 has not always been known. That's because, in GTA 3, we will not find a single sentence where the name Claude appears. The main character was usually addressed as Fido, or the handyman. The first term was used by Maria Latour, but it's worth emphasizing that the name of Claude as Fido by Salvatore's wife was not meaningless, and it suggested to us that the man shows great loyalty. In addition, the word Fido in Italian means trust, which also clearly orients us to the whole context.
Yeah, I'm sure your new lapdog has everything covered. And isn't he big and strong? Hey, Fido, let's go visit Chico and get some party treats.
As for the latter term, it was attributed to Claude by Asuka Kassen, who simply emphasized that Claude could handle any problem. Anyway, before the creation of GTA San Andreas, many people called the main character of GTA 3 Claude Speed, all because of a very similar appearance to the protagonist of GTA 2, and the very fact that the character also did not say a single word in the previous installment of the cycle. Well, unless the utterance of words can include farting and belching, then okay, our mistake, because these are the only sounds that came out of that man. Moving on, it wasn't until the release of GTA San Andreas in 2004 that many players experienced a major epiphany. It turned out that Claude was just Claude. But despite this, the community in most cases, unfortunately, ignored this fact, still incorrectly calling Claude Speed. Years later, on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of GTA 3, Rockstar North decided to publish several articles where they answered players' questions about this title. One of these questions was the identity of the main character of GTA 3. The developers referred to this topic twice. The first answer was very ambiguous. Information was passed there that Claude's last name could be Speed, but not necessarily. Hence, and as you can probably guess with such a statement, there's absolutely no certainty that Claude's surname is Speed. Therefore, it's safer to accept what is certain, that is the very name of the protagonist. What is very important and what Rockstar talked about is the generally accepted principle of the universe. This topic had already been discussed many times, but since it's a key thing, let's recall the definition once again, shall we? Well, in a nutshell, characters that exist in one universe have no right to exist in the other. Of course, there were some exceptions during the development of the series, which are the so-called universal characters, about whom we will try to make a video someday. However, we'll say in advance that Claude definitely does not belong to such characters. Despite all these arguments, many people still identify Claude as the protagonist of GTA 2, which, as we mentioned earlier, is simply wrong. Even we sometimes make this mistake by accident and add the surname Speed to the name of the main character of GTA 3 due to the considerable similarities of these men to each other. Moving on, we will discuss why Rockstar ultimately decided to abandon Claude's voice. To visualize this, let's imagine it's 2001. GTA 3 comes out for the PS2 console, and we start playing this game. At the very beginning of the storyline, we are shot by Catalina, and then, throughout the entire plot, Claude does not say anything at all. In connection with the event that we talked about a second ago, probably the most popular theory among players on the subject was created. A certain number of people, especially those who may not have played GTA San Andreas yet, are stuck in the misconception that the reason Claude is mute is that he was shot by Catalina. To be precise, the protagonist got a bullet in the neck, which seriously damaged his vocal cords. Yes, it's a pretty neat explanation, but after passing the rule stage in San Andreas, the whole elaborate theory is unfortunately only suitable for throwing away. There, we can see that the man still does not say a word, which ultimately rules out the theory that Claude lost his voice during the intro of GTA 3. In case anyone was wondering, the answer is very simple. Although GTA San Andreas came out 3 years later than GTA 3, the events that are presented to us there are happening in 1992, so a total of 9 years before GTA 3. This fact definitely explains the matter. Okay, then what we know is that Claude was mute from the beginning, but the question remains, why and how did it happen? One of the explanations that have appeared on this topic is a serious accident that happened before the action of GTA San Andreas. Yet, another possibility is that Claude has been mute since birth. And while these are much more likely scenarios, they are still pure speculation. Over the next few years, as the GTA community began to take a greater interest in beta content, one of the first GTA 3 trailers was spotted. The whole world turned upside down when the phrase, "get out of the car" was captured on the trailer, which also appeared at the time when Claude steals a car.
Get out of the car!
In the blink of an eye, all players took it for granted that Claude was originally intended to be a talking protagonist. The topic has become very controversial. It was so loud that Rockstar North themselves decided to refer to this matter. The creator said that the recording is a mere fake because the voice was probably added by someone from the network. What's more, the developers, importantly in the context of the rest of the episode, noted that they never had plans for Claude to be able to talk. This is interesting news, and it's not all. Now let's take a look at one more statement of the creators. This time, it'll be the answer to an open question from the player about why Claude is mute. Rockstar replies here that nowadays, it's rather natural for talking characters to appear, but that wasn't always the case, especially in open world games. Another valuable piece of information is that the developers allegedly had a lot on their minds when creating GTA 3. As a consequence, they decided to focus on creating lines of dialogue for NPCs, abandoning this issue in the case of Claude. A sensible argument here was that the player can better empathize with the character he plays himself, somewhat adding to himself what he would say after the words of other characters. These answers contain several truths as well as lies. First, let's look at the teaser. Here, Rockstar correctly pointed out that the substituted voice does not belong to Claude. Whether this was the case, it was solved recently because it turned out that the voice we hear in the trailer is the voice of a pedestrian from GTA 2. However, the fact that the creators did not plan to create a talking protagonist is not true. We found out about it thanks to the recently revealed Holy Grail from GTA 3. This document, as we've talked about in other videos, covers the entire design process of the game until the end of 2000. A lot of beta content was found in the document, especially when it comes to the original course of the story missions. And it was there that several leftovers of Claude's lines of dialogue were found. Claude's first dialogues were supposed to appear at the beginning of the Give Me Liberty mission, which is shown on the screen. The next dialogue can be found in the Chaperone mission. This time, Claude was talking to Maria Latour. In addition to this fact, we also have a curiosity that shows that it was Claude who was supposed to buy Maria's drugs from Chico, not the other way around. This is where Claude's dialogue ends. After the creators began to create the plot on Staunton Island, the concept of a talking protagonist was simply forgotten. As you can see, Rockstar no longer wanted to play with it, and yet, despite everything, they did a lot of lines of dialogue for less important characters and pedestrians. An interesting thing, isn't it? However, summing up, the two missions we mentioned are already proof enough that Rockstar North had plans to create a talking protagonist. The problem is that they quickly gave up on it. The only strange thing is that, for some reason, they kept this fact hidden for so many years. It's a pity that, in the end, Claude was left without a voice. We believe that it would not be perceived so negatively by the players then. Well, it's no wonder. In the end, the players got a colorless character, showing no emotions, and they didn't learn anything about his life other than what was shown in the storyline. Summing up today's episode, we could say with a high degree of certainty that Rockstar North approached the issue of creating the main character of GTA 3 very carelessly. The creators did not design to take matters into their own hands and properly make the protagonist of GTA 3. They preferred to convert the main character from GTA 2 into a three-dimensional version instead of creating a new model. As if that wasn't enough, they eventually gave up the concept of talking protagonist, which is the main reason many players simply did not share any sympathy with Claude. And while Rockstar intended to create a character that any gamer could relate to, they ended up doing quite the opposite instead. Instead, we got a protagonist who is almost filled with no personality, and his decisions are based only on trite motives, which, in our opinion, is simply bad. And if you want to hear about other secrets from the world of GTA 3, we recommend you watch the episode about Joey Leone now. In the meantime, thanks for being with us. Take care, and see you in the next episode. Bye! Carl Johnson is undoubtedly one of the most liked characters among fans of the Grand Theft Auto series, which is also shown by a survey that appeared on the channel some time ago. By the way, thank you to everyone who took part in it. The fact that CJ is liked by so many people is certainly due to many factors. It is, among others, his sad story, funny moments, personality, and GTA San Andreas itself, which we also love so much.
You know of the boss's curse?
Nah. What'd I do? Let me reintroduce myself.
In addition, despite the many crimes that CJ commits, we often get the impression that the protagonist simply has a good heart, and all this attracts us very much to him. However, let's get this straight. In GTA San Andreas, there are many moments in which CJ shows great carelessness and lack of thought. This is what prompted us to take up the topic of the episode, in which we'll say bad things about CJ, trying to be as objective as possible in all this, and putting aside our sympathy for the main character. The first example that shows us the stupidity of CJ is when Carl goes to a ranch near San Fierro after receiving a mysterious phone call. So the situation is as follows. It's been a very short time since CJ eliminated the Loco Syndicate. Big Smoke, who had an ongoing relationship with this criminal organization, was forced to produce crack on his own. As you can see, CJ got into trouble with both Big Smoke and Tenpenny, who were temporarily deprived of the supplier, and thus the big money from dealing drugs. Although the eyes of many dangerous people are directed toward the protagonist of GTA San Andreas, he doesn't care about it. Because after these events, when CJ gets the aforementioned call from a mysterious person, in our opinion, he behaves as if he does not see any danger.
Speak on it.
This is a friend of yours. I've got some information relating to your brother. Come to my ranch and I'll explain. It's in Tierra Robata, cross the Garber Bridge, head south.
Who the fuck is this?
I can't talk right now. Get your ass over here.
Mom's always told me not to talk to strangers.
And look what happened to the bitch. Now, if you want your brother to go to sleep tonight with his tongue intact, get your ass over here. Goodbye.
As we heard, the man's voice is modulated, so there's no way to recognize him. A mysterious person orders CJ to go to some ranch in the desert. Moreover, the Riddler mentions that he can help CJ get Sweet out of prison, which implies he's well informed and knows what CJ cares about. What does CJ do? Well, without a moment's hesitation, he rushes straight to the ranch, where he may be in great danger. This is important, especially since CJ, by destroying the Loco Syndicate and taking that group out of business, has undoubtedly stepped on dangerous people's toes, as we mentioned earlier. If CJ wanted to find out who called him, he should protect himself before he went to the ranch. Either do some pre-scouting or ask Caesar and Woozy to keep an eye on the ranch from a distance with a few snipers who will react quickly if something goes wrong and help CJ avoid being killed. It's more rational, considering that CJ had asked Woozy for help before, which happened after the photo opportunity mission.
Well, look, Woozy, I need to get some info from you, man.
What exactly do you boys want to know? Who are these putas, Holmes?
By the way, it's Kendall during the cutscene in the mission Wear Flowers in Your Hair, who talks to CJ about the fact that the man can't make use of what he has. This line of dialogue is a great analogy to the situation we're talking about at the moment. CJ may have contacts, but he doesn't know how to use them sometimes.
Then make it into a garage.
Oh, that's a great idea, sis. Won't you shut up?
You know what, Carl? You are a fucking idiot. Your whole life you wanted something for nothing. Now you've got something and you don't know what to do with it. We'll make it good enough.
Fortunately, it turned out that Mike Torino was waiting for CJ at the ranch, who saw great potential in this boy and the ability to settle many of his interests through the hands of the main character of the game. Even though CJ blew up the entire Loco Syndicate operation, Torino wasn't about to cry over that, and instead take advantage of CJ's help. In this topic, also check out the episode about Mike Torino's plan and why. While working for a government agency, Torino started a drug trafficking criminal group. You'll find the link to the video in the tab. And now let's move on to the missions for The Truth, specifically the Black Project and the Green Goo. The Truth, after disappearing for a while, suddenly reappears in CJ's life. As it turns out, with good reason, he has prepared tasks for him, and they are hard. Truth asks Carl to get two extremely valuable items, a jetpack and a mysterious green goo. Everything seems to be fine, except for the fact that in both of these missions, CJ is fighting the military and probably one of the strongest troops stationed in the state of San Andreas. These are more powerful troops than those from the Robbing Uncle Sam mission performed for Ryder. These are outstanding units, which we know because they were tasked with guarding very important objects. Meanwhile, CJ, without going into too much detail, even though he doesn't like the plan, decides to enter Area 69 and take on this extremely dangerous task, not even knowing what gratification awaits him for it. The same situation occurs when you get the green goo.
Land on the train, kill the guards, get in and steal the stuff.
Oh, yeah? What stuff?
I don't know yet.
Oh, you don't know yet. I was starting to think you was a lunatic. What you mean you don't know yet?
CJ takes a jetpack and flies to a freight train with a whole horde of well-trained soldiers on board, heavily armed. What's more, CJ, like before, eventually agrees to everything, not even knowing what the point is of getting the green goo and whether there's a greater purpose behind it or some greater reward. Plus, after these 2 missions, CJ should be screwed and become one of the most wanted criminals in all of America. After all, the man had caused serious damage to the army, killed many military men, and exposed great government secrets to the public. In short, after such actions, the entire army should throw themselves at him and do everything to prevent him from surviving another morning. In theory, you don't have to be Einstein to know what happens to such things, but still. In connection with the topic of the truth, which we have